so people can catch it later if they need to catch the replay. Thanks for coming to the last session of the year. I can't believe how quickly the year has gone by. When I was planning this, I was like, wow, exams are coming up. You know, make sure we have one more session before everybody heads off for the summer. So good to see everybody. This is resume feedback, and our guests are Oscar Dixon with the Associated Press and Kelley Evans with Andscape. We're going to talk a little bit in general about resumes, and then some of you submitted your resumes for feedback, which we can share when we get to that end of that session right there, that portion of the night. I wanted to start just by reminding everybody about APSE scholarships. APSE offers 6 scholarships to college students for $1,250 each. The deadline is May 15th, and that includes the Gary D. Howard Scholarship that goes to an HBCU student. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat if you can see this. You know, everything you need to apply is in there. Basically, it's some work samples, but sorry, neighbor's dog is out. I told my daughter to take the dog upstairs. Sorry. Yes, how you plan to pay for school, and just stuff that's in here, and we'll give you all the details you need. That's on May 15th. I'm going to drop the link for all those interested in applying. Link in the chat. Okay, that's the link in there. So please take a look, encourage you to apply. You have 11 days, so plenty of time. All right, so now I'm going to hand off to Oscar to get us started.
Oh, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's not afternoon, it's 7 Eastern, depending on where you are. Great idea, Lisa. Thank you for inviting me. Actually, I was just going through a hiring process at the moment. So a couple of things that I would start with by looking at, you know, just in resumes in general. And I think you'll hear this a lot, but just understand that your resume is a story, and your story is about yourself. So your lead, whatever you open with, you know, punch it up. You know, don't make it generic, don't make it bland, and don't make it like everyone else's, because you're not like everyone else. You know, you should be telling me not why you want the job, but why I'd be an idiot not to hire you for the job. That's sell yourself. Start it with that. I think you, in telling your story, you know, the most important thing that you can give me is your experience. I know you're coming out of school and may be limited, but whatever you've done, tell me about your experience. And when you list all of your experience and you tell me, I've covered this, I've edited that, maybe have one example, including a story on George Floyd. Just one specific example that'll get me to want to look further at you, because Lisa's gone through it. I think every hiring manager's gone through it. You know, I get 75 to 200 resumes. So I've got to go through and see who goes to the next pile, to that next stop. You don't want to stay at the entry level. So give me something that'll make me want to continue to look at you, and not something generic, because you're not generic. And, you know, a great example, and Lisa and I were talking a few minutes ago, and I know a lot of times you're told, especially coming out of school, list education first. Well, everybody's listing education first, so that means everybody's the same. Because to be honest, it doesn't matter to hiring managers. Most times, whether you went to Northwestern, A&T, Alabama State, what we really care about is what you've done and what you're capable of. So start with your experiences. Tell me first why I'd be an idiot not to hire you, and then break down because I've done all these things, as opposed to starting with education. So that's just some big things. And one last thing that has nothing to do with a resume, I always like to tell people, don't accept the interview unless you're ready. So let's say I went through the resume and I called you for an interview. don't accept it if you're not ready. If you're at the gym, if you're unprepared, tell me, maybe we do it tomorrow. If I'm interested, I can wait 24 hours, but you don't want to miss the opportunity because you're unprepared. So don't be afraid to tell someone who's calling you about a job, now is not a good time. If it's not a good time, just be straight. So I'll cede my time now to Ms. Evans.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dixon. So hey, everybody, I'm Kelley Evans with Andscape, formerly the Undefeated. I am a producer there these days. I started off as a writer and an editor. I covered the NBA for 10 years, more than 10 years in Memphis. I covered the Memphis Grizzlies. And so I'm a sports gal natively. And since at ESPN, I've gotten a chance to do a lot of different things. And I will say today, I want to talk to you all about the myth busters of what you think makes a good resume. I know you've probably heard 20 different things on what makes your resume good, what you need to include, but we'll talk about some things that are outdated. We'll talk about some things that hiring managers really look for. We'll talk about keywords. We'll talk about how to get past that computerized thing that takes all of your resumes that you may get the general, sorry, we will go with somebody else or whatever the case may be. But a lot of times it's just that your keywords aren't correct. I'll show you a rough draft of one of my past resumes that I had professionally done. And I'll let you guys ask me anything from there.
You want to start with Mythbusters, or you want to?
Yeah.
You want to start with that? Yeah.
Let's start with Mythbusters. First of all, fact or myth? You have to start your resume with an objective.
Anybody want to take a stab at that?
I say myth.
What'd you say?
Myth.
Myth. Absolutely, a myth. These days, you want to start your resume off with what they call a professional statement. So if you have an objective, definitely take that out, rename it objective, rename it professional statement, and tell me what you want to do professionally. So with that said, I will bring up a resume that's a little older that I'll share with you guys that I had someone work on. And of course, this is not a Bible or an end all be all, but it's a good example. So here I am, all big and bold. Kelley Evans, you know, I'm a writer, a content strategist, an editor, and a producer. Here is my number, Gmail, and where I live right now. And here is my profile or professional statement. You know, I'm a media professional with more than 20 years in print, digital, and linear, award-winning. If you won any awards, tell them you won some awards. Award-winning storyteller with the strong sports, healthcare, news, culture, entertainment, and feature writing background. So you really want to tell them what you do and what you bring to their organization. So if they need an editor, you're an editor, you got to tell them you're an editor, and here's why. Then you can get into some of your experience and bullet points. That brings me to my next myth. Do you have to have bullet points on your resume? Who wants to take a stab at that one?
I'm going to go with myth.
That's a myth. You can actually write in paragraphs. You don't have to, you can write one sentence, 2 sentences. You don't have to go death by bullet points. I'm old school, so I love death by bullet points. But you absolutely don't have to have that. And you'll see some examples of that as well. Make sure you hit those key skills. So you want to hit those keywords. And I know Lisa Wilson would get into more about keywords from there. List your awards, and to piggyback off Oscar Dixon, education is at the end. If you have done any freelance work, you can put that at the end as well. I'm a little older, so Mine is more than one page, which brings me to my next myth. Does your resume have to be one page? Absolutely not. You can have more than one page on your resume. If you've done more extensive work in journalism that you'd like to highlight, it does not have to stay one page. Of course, I wouldn't go past 2 pages, but you can absolutely go past 1 page to tell your story. And those are just a few things that you can think about here. Without disturbing your resume. You can work in columns. You don't have to have everything there. And again, this is a rough draft one that I never sent to anyone, never used. And it's just more meaty than I would like. So my real resume is not this meaty, but it does have all of the things that would compose what people would want to see in a resume. And I condensed it from here.
And I would just like to add to what Kelley said about your professional statement. Tailor it to the job you're applying to. Exactly. You know, don't make it so that you've got this professional statement, because it doesn't, one size doesn't fit all. So make sure you know what the job is asking for, and whatever those skills are that you have. Again, tell me why you should be hired for this job. And those will be tailoring that professional statement to the requirements of the job. Also, to Kelley's point about, not bullets or just paragraphs, once again, I encourage you to say, if you were working on breaking news, everybody says I broke news. Well, just a hint at give me one example without, I don't need the whole thing. I was first with, George, Aaron Rodgers. I was, I own this. Whatever it is, just a sentence. It's a clause. It's a phrase. It doesn't extend the resume. It doesn't make it 4 pages. But instead of generic bullets, once again, one little clause of including. I broke news, several stories. It's not the only one you did, but including. And what you can do, working at the college paper, freelancing, or whatever you've done, whatever it is that is your moment that you feel, enterprise, trend story, breaking news, make sure you mention it. For me, as a hiring manager, because once again, I've got 200 of these that I got to go through. So you need to hit me hard, because I'm going to be just like you are with your phone. If I'm not interested, I'm going to keep it moving.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I've never dumped a resume because it's been over a page. Now you're just starting out, so everything might fit on the page for you, and that's fine. But as you kind of grow in your careers and get more experience, if it goes past a page, that's okay. I've never dumped one because it's more than a page.
Same too.
But you have dumped them because they're not interesting.
All day, because there's so many of them.
Does anyone have any questions so far?
Yes, I do.
What's up?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kaidia Bobo. I'm a senior, graduating senior English major attending Spelman College. And thank you guys for hosting this tonight. I just have a question. So I probably should wait to the end, but I heard that you guys said oh, I'll drop it because it's not interesting. What typically makes somebody interesting? Just off the top of your head. I understand, of course, the skills that you should have for the position, of course, because I'm pretty sure there are going to be people that are qualified, more than enough people that are qualified, but what makes you stand out? Just, I don't know, in any category.
I would say, and just so, because Kelley did a much better job with her intro than I did, because I am the South Region sports editor for AP, which is basically a 13-state footprint from, DC down to Florida. Don't ask me about AP's geography, but and I'm here in Atlanta. That said, what makes it interesting for me, again, this isn't about, a dating app or anything like that. That's not what I mean. I don't care what your favorite colors are. What we're talking about is you need to grab me that says, once again, these are the things that make me qualified for this job. So hit me with that opening professional statement with tailored to what I'm doing and what I'm looking for as a hiring manager. And then hit me with the skills that you possess that makes you qualified for this job. What is not interesting is, as Kelley put it, these computer generated resumes that have objective education. And then by then I'm asleep because you're like everyone else and you are definitely not everyone else. Every one of you brings something unique to the table. And that's what you need to make clear in your resume.
I agree with Oscar, and I will share a story. When I first got started in journalism, I did the corniest thing that anyone could ever do in life, but I always got the interview. I always got the call back and I always got the interview. So my cover letter opened with, "Look no further. I'm just the person you've been waiting for." I always got the call back just because that one thing in my cover letter always grabbed everyone. And I stopped doing that. I'm like, should I go back to that? But no, I shouldn't. But that's just an example of what Oscar said about having something. It doesn't have to be that because that was super corny, but have something in your resume that could totally grab the attention of the hiring managers, because you want to get past that computer somehow. And you do that with key skills, which Lisa will talk about listing those. But once you get past it and it gets to an actual recruiter, you want to get past the recruiter to the hiring manager. So to answer your question, be creative and list the most important things about yourself up top. Tell a story, tell me who you are in the top professional statement of that resume. And that's how you stand out. I wish I still had that cover letter, and I think I do somewhere. It was hilarious, but I always got a call back. Every single resume I sent in, literally I got called back.
But I would argue that probably after I read that one sentence, what Kelley would probably have is a graph about, okay, this is why.
Right.
I'm supporting that bold statement with experiences and telling you why, telling that person that don't know you why I'm special, why you're special. You know, again, this is a story about you trying to get this job. So impress people right away. We're not going to bag in. Don't bury the lead. Don't bury the lead about yourself.
Oscar, when you're looking at a resume, do you like to see references at the bottom? Does that matter?
You know, you can put them at the bottom. I can get them on a cover letter. Sometimes I'm if it's there. But once again, I'm only going to use the references if I've gotten past the no stage. You know, the references for me is when you've moved further along in the process. I tell you a secret about references as you use, you know, Kelley's professional statement. Sometimes if you've got somebody you're using as a reference, I'm going to guess, because if you use somebody who's not going to hype you up, then you really need to get another reference. But if you've got somebody who's going to hype you up and they've got a good quote, excuse me, I really hate my home line working from home, but I can't get it to shut up. So, and since I'm talking, I would just say that maybe use a quote from them about you or why I should hire you in that professional statement. There's nothing wrong with, instead of you telling me you're this wonderful person and you're this team player, you're this hardworking guy, gal, whatever, excuse me, woman, then if you got somebody else to say it, it's a sentence in that professional statement. I don't see anything wrong with it. Again, Kelley's right. Be creative. Make it set apart. I guarantee you, Lisa, I don't know how many you've seen that had it, it will stop a hiring manager should be like, whoa, okay, right away. So there's ways to utilize them, but I don't mind them at the bottom of resumes. It's obviously after education at the bottom, and it's great, but it saves me a phone call back if I need you to find a reference. So I appreciate them, but they're at the bottom.
And speaking of references, are you all obtaining letters of references when you leave an internship or a job? Are you asking for a letter of reference from your past employers and keeping those on file? Well, if you're not, start today whenever you can. I task everyone to reach back to someone at an old internship or old job that really gave you a good pep talk and ask them for a letter of reference. And as Oscar said, to be creative, you can take one quote out of that letter of reference and put it on. I've seen a magazine style resume where they had like a line, a quote, and who said that quote, like Oprah Winfrey, you know, something of that magnitude. If it was a big name, I've absolutely seen those resumes before, and I thought they were rather creative. And I was saying, I didn't think of that when I was in my 20s, but they were really cool. So if you are not obtaining letters of references, start doing that. Yes, Aaron.
So my name is Aaron Arnstein. I'm a sophomore here at the University of Maryland. When you talk about letters of references when leaving an internship or a job, is that like a letter of recommendation?
It could be a letter of recommendation or just a letter of reference. So sometimes they are used interchangeably, but you want to have something that you can keep for life. Like if I obtain a letter of reference or recommendation from Oprah Winfrey, like I'm never gonna throw it away. But you wanna think of people like that who can just vouch for your experience and what you've done within the organization.
And if you're coming out of school, it could be, you know, maybe it's maybe it's a professor, maybe it's you've interned at, you know, maybe you intern at the Post while you're at Maryland or one of the county papers, and the sports editor wants to give you a letter of recommendation, reference, because if you ask that person who's been in the industry, they'll know what you're looking for, and they will either say, yes, I can give it to you, or if you get the organization frowns on it, then you should wonder about the performance you just gave maybe. But that said, if they're going to be positive with you and give you, 2 or 3 graphs, as Kelley says, maybe there's something in there that says, worked here for this summer, knocked it out the park. And that's something that you could use in your, professional, other than you having to tell me. Because if you told me I'm lazy, I'm not a self-starter, I'm like, what? Whoa. But if you're telling me I'm a go-getter, you're telling me that, so I expect you to hype yourself. So that's what I'm saying, something that sets you apart.
Right. And the difference between people, we use that interchangeably, but there is a difference. And the difference would be usually for a letter of reference, it speaks to your character and it's something that you can keep in your portfolio forever. For a letter of recommendation, it's usually someone recommending you for a specific job. So if you want like a character reference or a letter that says, I worked with him, I would work with him again, and these were his strong points while he was here, or whatever your pronoun may be, because I know that's important now. We definitely want to keep those letters with us. Now, for a recommendation, you would be asking for something specific, like, hey, I am up for this new job at the Washington Post, and I would really love a letter of recommendation for that. Or if you just say, hey, would you recommend me going forward for any journalism job? You can get a letter of recommendation, but a letter of reference will never end.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
I have a question.
Sure.
Hello, my name is Kadish Edwards. I'm from the North Carolina A&T State University. I am currently a sophomore, will be a junior next semester. My question for you all is, so what if you have done an internship? Because I've done an internship with the radio station about 3 or 4 years ago. what if that person isn't there anymore that you worked with like hand in hand close with, that is like supervising you for that internship? How would you like still get a letter of reference with that person no longer being at that place, and also not having contact information to still reach out to them?
Is he, go ahead. Go ahead, Kelley. Is he still in the industry, or is she still in the industry?
I believe he is. I believe he probably moved to Raleigh, North Carolina to another station. I'm just not sure.
So so it's a good lesson, because let's say once you're in the industry and let's say you get a good relationship with the A&T coach, right? You're covering it, or the women's coach, it doesn't matter. You got a good relationship with the coach. It becomes a great source. Then that coach moves up to a Power 5 school. You keep in touch with that coach because it's a good source for you. So if you've got somebody you've interned with and they're still in the industry and they've gone on to a bigger job, that could even work in your favor, because I think that you could then, once you find them, if they're still high on you, you're like, hey, remember me, whatever, get that, because she was your producer, editor when you were interning, so it still works, even though she's not with that outlet at that moment.
Okay.
I'm going to throw something in the chat that I think could be helpful. Action verbs are very important on your resume. And I always found when I was writing them, I tended to kind of repeat myself, wrote, what can I come up with to kind of say the same thing, but perhaps in a different way. This is a link I got from Harvard on just action verbs. Kind of keep that in mind. You want to have action verbs on your resume. So that's a good resource in the chat to bookmark and keep, because it's really an extensive list and can kind of help you when you're trying to differentiate a little bit on your resume and presenting all your skills and experience. And so we can go through some more like general questions, and then we can get to the specific resumes that were brought in advance, just to kind of give a little feedback on each one.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Well, my name is Jordan Davis. I'm a rising senior at North Carolina A&T, and I was just asking, is there anywhere I can send in my resume? I know I'm a little late to the Zoom meeting. Is there anywhere I can send it in for a review?
You can email it. Do you have that link that I sent out, the email?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can email that, and then we can put it into the, obviously we haven't had a chance to really look at it, but you can like submit it and we can take a look.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
No problem.
Look, and guys, please, this is very informal, and I wish sometimes I had it. So open up. If you got questions, ask them, shoot them, fire away. There's nothing that you cannot add, that you're gonna ask that is gonna, we're gonna laugh or be like, no, that's silly, because they're truly, this is about trying to get paid.
Right, and there's just feedback. If there's something we think you can add or something, it's not to be offensive or anything. It's just to kind of give you some pointers on it, because resumes they're constantly changing. You're going to be changing it throughout your career. So, this could be a good starting point for that. Okay, Kelley, you want to share your screen? We can get started.
Sure.
Is there a particular order you want to go in, Oscar, or just whatever?
No, look, I'm rolling with the ladies in the house. Y'all telling me what I got to do.
Okay.
We'll do what you tell us to do, Oscar. I guess we can start. Is Carrie on, or is it Kari? Oh, Jordan, you have a question. Yes, Jordan.
Oh, I was the one that, my bad. I was the one that just spoke. That was what I was raising.
I thought you had another.
You just have your hand raised.
I'm sorry.
Y'all got to show me how to do this hand raise. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, you're not the only one. I don't know either. That's why I'm looking at where's that.
Carrie isn't on tonight, and Carrie is he's actually working. He's not a recent graduate, but he comes on a lot of our sessions because he's here in Buffalo, and I invite him because he always likes to kind of get the advice and talk to the editors who are on the call.
Nice. Well, Carrie has a really good resume here. And I love that he included his photo. I was a bit shy, so I was always scared to include a photo. So, but I do like that he included one. He lists his awards. His education is up top. I would probably suggest to move that toward the bottom, maybe. But I know it's tomato. But I like it. It's a one pager. I'd love to know more about him. So I could go an extra page, but all the meat is here. So I do appreciate that one.
If you wait, before you move on,
sure.
Go back for me.
Yeah, why don't both of you speak to each resume, and then we can move on.
Right. If you go down toward where's sports reporter, if you notice here, it's recap town of Lancaster board meeting, which resulted in the town's handling of abandoning. It gives me something specific that I was talking about. It's a phrase that told me at least one thing that, you know, he did specifically about this. But if you notice, and you look, and what I would like for you guys to do, because now as you get to look at everybody else's resume, you're like, well, now how does mine stack up if all of you were applying for one job, right? How does this distinguish it from mine? To Kelly's point, education was higher, you got the awards, and if you go back up, Kelley, to you know, as Kelley talked about, he's got the professional summary, but I would want this tailored more to what I was looking for this particular job. And if you notice, you know, there's the generic things, you're telling me what you do, but just again, try to make, if you can, just one example, if it's worth noting, to pull it out, because that's something you did that the others haven't. And I agree with Kelley. It's a nice looking resume. I also will encourage you guys to know at this point, as you're getting in and thinking about getting into the industry, it's always great to sometimes send a photo if you have it. I'm not always into it, but depending on the job, it can be a huge asset for you. And the last thing I would say is this works, and be creative, because I think Kelley is on point with everything she said. Just don't get too hung up on style over substance. I want it to look good. I want it to be engaging and want me to read, make me want to invite me to read it, but make sure it's full of substance. Don't let style outweigh the substance.
I'd say on the resumes I get, maybe 10% have photos. So really it's kind of a personal choice. You know, if you don't have a photo on your resume, I don't think that's going to really hurt you in any way, but it's just, I think it's a personal choice. So maybe it's been about 10%.
I don't get many. I'm with you. I think in the last posting we had, I don't think I had any.
Yeah.
Had a photo.
So I think that's one that's optional. You know, if you want to put a photo on there, yeah, please do. And if not, you know, I don't think it's going to hurt you in any way.
I agree. Any questions about Carrie's resume while it's up?
Especially since he's not here to defend himself.
I have a question. My name is Charlie Major. I'm a rising senior at North Carolina A&T. And I just wanted to know, I was in the NABJ short course this past year, and they told us that like the average time that a recruiter looks at a resume is 6 seconds. So I just wanted to know, like, can you attest to that? And like, what about this resume would make you like maybe stop and not put it away after that time period?
I look at resumes more than 6 seconds. But I'm not a recruiter. I would be a hiring manager. So I get the resumes from the recruiter. So if you can make it past the recruiter, that is good. I have heard that as well. I think that's one reason we say your education is the least important thing, because if a recruiter can see you graduated from Columbia School of Journalism, but that recruiter is also looking at what Oscar said, how well you can tell me you can do the job you're applying for. So if that job is for a culture writer, in that professional summary, I need you to tell me in the first 5 or 6 words when you were a cultural writer and what did you lend to the cultural writing. So that would need to be in your professional summary if all recruiters, if we're saying that recruiters are going by that 6-second rule. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I would add part of the reason you get the 6 seconds, and I agree with Kelley. Once you get to a hiring manager, we're going to read it. Like, Lisa said she's never dumped a resume for being 2 pages. We talk about interest, and you can't be. I want to make sure every resume that I read and get, I review, because this is someone's life. It's not just about what I need for the position, but I know what I've had my resume reviewed. I think the other reason that you get the 6 seconds though, is if you're not meeting their qualifications and the demands. If it says it's Spanish speaking and you're not, you don't speak Spanish, that's 6 seconds. So I don't think that it's about, is mostly about, to Kelley's point again, that you qualify for the position, but recruiters are also trying to save hiring managers time. So want to make sure you're on point for this. So if you're not qualified, you don't meet sort of the basics of what we're looking for, that gets you out quickly. But if you can get that, most of them will get past the recruiter. I have to ask that question. That's a very interesting, I'm going to ask my HR people how many we get weeded out, because I get some that I think should have been weeded out. So that 6 seconds is not getting the job done, but no, I think it's just about basics. And as long as you're hitting the high marks, I think you're good.
I've never gone 6 seconds, but I have spent more time with resumes than others. And it's starting off with that professional summary or with experience right off the bat that I know that you might have what I'm looking for this position. At The Athletic, we post jobs and we get a ton of people who want these jobs. I mean, hundreds we have to go through. So you can kind of tell if you've been through 10, 20, 30, who might rise to that next level where you want to like put the resume aside, give them a phone call, or who you don't. And honestly, sometimes the first thing in the experience is lens crafters. I'm not kidding.
Oh,
you got to shoot.
How about Kroger?
You got to shoot your shot. But because that's what you're telling me, that's what you're leading off with, that's your experience, I will go to the bottom. I don't dump it at that point. I go to the bottom to see, well, okay, because, circumstances happen. We just went through a pandemic. People lost their job. Did you do something else in your career that maybe you were experienced for this? If it's still keeping with that theme of lens crafter, you don't have a lot of experience in journalism, then I'm going to archive you and move on to the next person and try to find that. If it's a position for the universal desk, I want to see that you've really done some line editing. So maybe you talked about where you worked. Maybe you worked on this award-winning story or something. And that's what we say about like tailoring it to you can do the job, and that could be for any editing job you're going for. So it would fit my organization or fit AP that you've really worked with some copy and can really make a story and take a story, shape it and make it better. So when we're saying what you can bring to the organization, it's specifics like that.
Even to something as mundane as you might think is mundane, but it's very important, headline writing. If you're on the desk and doing line editing, that's a big, that's a skill. Page 6 and for a reason.
And Aaron, you have a question for us?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, so looking at Kari's skills, so I've heard before, and I wanted to get your guys' take on this. Sometimes the more obvious things like problem solving, for example, here, experienced sports journalist isn't necessarily necessary because that's not making you stand out or showing something that's more than just generic. So how do you guys feel about putting skills such as those two things on the resume under skills?
Kelley, can you scroll down some as well? On Kari, there you go. Thank you. We went to, there you go. Yeah, Aaron, you're absolutely right. Do not put, I'm going to, I don't want to, we never make an assumption, but don't give me the basics, and then don't raise questions, because I've seen this before, and Lisa and Kelley can tell me differently. When you say podcasting, I'm like, is that like fly fishing? Like, okay, I know you're trying to tell me you worked on a podcast, but it really doesn't give me what I need. And I think you're right, Aaron. I like that tells me about, video editing on an iPhone, more things, more programs and apps and things you work with that get you to a point. Again, tailoring it to the specifics of your skills, not something generic like, I eat, breathe, and walk. I hope so.
Yeah, for example, like when I worked at the Buffalo News, we were looking for a designer. The system we used was InDesign. So if you had that you worked InDesign on your resume, that made me take a stronger look at you than maybe somebody who hadn't worked on our system. So when you're doing skills, yeah, specific things like that will help and can help at times.
And what Lisa just pointed out, that means you're looking and doing your research about what Buffalo News, what production system the Buffalo News used if you're applying for a job at the Buffalo News. So again, you can tailor it to that. So you need to do your homework on the outlet that you're trying to get a job with, as much as you can find out what the production system is, what the video format is, whatever it is, so that you can say, oh, I worked on your system.
Yes, and that brings me back to something I said earlier, Oscar and Lisa. Some of your resumes, our resumes, or whomever's looking for jobs may not get past even to the recruiter because the computer is knocking you out. So for example, Lisa said she's looking for InDesign. So if the job calls for someone with InDesign, well, guess what? Kari could very well know InDesign because he has Adobe Creative Cloud listed on his resume, and InDesign is part of Adobe Creative Cloud. So he was immediately eliminated because he didn't have InDesign as his keyword. He has Adobe Creative Cloud, and maybe that computer is scanning for InDesign, and he just didn't get past that first level because he has Adobe Creative Cloud, meaning I know all of the Adobe systems in one. So there's another thing you definitely have to look out for before you submit your resume. Learn the job, look at what they're asking you to have, the relevant skills, and specifically look at what they need. If they need an editor who knows Avid, most people know Premiere and Final Cut, but if you know Avid, add all of those.
Ready to go on to the next one?
Yeah, let's go to Aaron.
Uh-oh, Aaron. You're on the hot seat.
You.
Oh, I appreciate the constructive criticism, so do not hold back.
So for me, I would love to see a professional statement at the top of your resume. That's the first thing I see. I love that you have media experience and you're telling me everything that you've done in the media. And I love that you have other experience, to Lisa's point, when she said, I get people who worked at Rite Aid or Lens Crafters. That could be under other experience. So I do love that you've divided it to give us your relevant experience in the media first. I think that that's totally smart to do. And I love that you thought to do that.
And the longer you're in journalism, Aaron, that stuff will drop off because you'll have more journalism experience.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
As you grow, you'll be able to get rid of other experience once you get the field profile.
You beat me to it. Right? You're sophomore, so your junior year, other experience goes away. Because that does nothing for you, for me. So and again, it tells me, I'm looking at you as a graduate, or at this point, if you're going, so we've all had to, do something, work our way through something else. I'm looking at you being responsible in that regard. And these other jobs are showing me that. So you know, you're being a cashier is not going to help me as the line editor. So, but Lisa made a great point. You know, as you go to your next year, then you're going to add more to your relevant experience, and this will fall off. I love that you put education down. And if you look at the skills, you hit just what Kelley was talking about. You were more specific, more detailed about what you're doing. And you're not telling me that, you know, you can walk, eat, and breathe at the same time. So I like that. And so the order is there. I agree with Kelley. I need something that tells me why, you know, I would be an idiot not to hire you. So, and again, you work on that in Kelley's resume. She had her older one was a great example of how I can have something that's really good, that's really telling about myself, then that I can edit and tailor to a specific job. So get you something that's strong, professional statement, then modify it for each job that you apply for.
And should that professional statement just be like 2 or 3 sentences?
Yeah.
Yes. I think I heard Kelley say yes. So yes, agreeing with Kelley. Definitely don't want it too long, but you also want it to be, again, it's succinct. It's a lead. Again, I go back to, this is a story about Aaron. So write a lead. Kelley, can you, if you're at your laptop, can you scroll back up a little bit on the experience? Mm-hmm. And again, when you look at this, you're on the flagship stations, you're writing game recaps, you're doing news stories. So you're doing post-game stuff. Okay, so what, you know, you when Terps beat Wisconsin, probably didn't happen, but did you cover that game? You know, give me a specific, like, you know, this was mine that did it. And you can even, you know, hyperlink to it if you can, just to make sure I can get to it. You know, use the technology that's available to you so that it makes it easy for any hiring manager to quickly go, aha, got you. So those are the things that will get there for me. But yes, make your opening professional statement succinct, make it a good lead, make it strong, and make it about inviting me to want to read on. If you listen to what Lisa said a minute ago about, okay, your statement and then your experiences make me want to keep going. It's a story. If it's a good lead, if it's a good, you know, nut graph, news peg, you want to continue reading more about the story. If it's not, I'm on to something else.
Awesome. And when you were talking about the different links potentially to put in, is that you're not talking about in the professional statement, correct? That would be like if I wrote the story or profile on the star football player, putting that link right in there to make it accessible for whoever's reading it. Absolutely.
I mean, it would be something significant. I can't remember the kid who the football player who dropped, you know, passed away when you guys were having all those issues. I'm not saying you were covering that story, but if that was one you covered and you wrote about and it was noteworthy, I'd hyperlink to that. It was sort of like what Kelley said about if I've got a letter of reference from Oprah, hey, you know, that's going to stop anybody. So don't put just a mundane game story in there. Don't put one that didn't really have good context. Put something in there that is going to go, because if I do hyperlink to it, you don't want me to be disappointed.
Yeah, I look at links. Now, I won't look at every link immediately, you know, but when I narrow down, if I've gone from those 300, and we really have gotten that many people at the Athletic applying.
Yes.
If I've narrowed down those 300 people to 10 people I want to call, that's when I go a little deeper. You know, I kind of see, okay, this is interesting, this resume. I think this person might have the experience that I'm looking for this position. And then when I'm going through, and especially because I'm going to do a phone interview with this person, so I want to know kind of what they've done. It also helps me in the interview to know what you've done, that we can talk about that and talk about how your skills could also fit the organization.
And one thing I did notice on Carrie's resume, that did stand out to me is right here. He has his muckrack.com. So if you click on that, that's going to be a link to some of his writing samples or his video samples, I'm assuming. Yeah, it's a digital resume, and here's his portfolio. So as Oscar said, that was good use of a hyperlink, and we get to actually see his writing samples along with his digital resume, his tweets, his awards. So Muckrack is a very good thing that you guys could use if you haven't already.
And that brings, I want to say something to that, and Kelley, please echo. Social media, be careful. You know, we're gonna look. I'm gonna look and see who you follow. And you know, sometimes if you follow somebody who's not good and it leads you to an idiot, you wonder about the candidate. So be careful and know that your social media platform is going to help or hurt you. So use it wisely and be smart about it.
All right, if we don't have any more questions.
Aaron, you have any more questions about yours?
I think personally, I don't. I get one question I have for my website. So I want to put that right near the top where I put my phone number and my email. Is that where I'd want to put a website link to my website or Muckrack?
You can put it like right under your email address. Like you two have a hyperlink in yours. So if I click yours, it'll totally take me to an email. So you can put it right under there.
Got it.
Or
awesome. Well, do you guys anything else? Anything else that stuck out to you guys?
No, that was it. I think it was good. If you wanted to move your skills to the top, you can use instead of a straight up and down resume, you could make use of your skills on the left side or right justify it too, if you wanted to move that up.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome. I think I saw another hand raised. Maybe I was seeing things. Okay.
Hi.
There you go. Jump in.
Hi, dear again. Hi. I don't know if you guys are finished. I was gonna say I can send my resume really quick, or I can share my screen. Either one.
Well, Lisa's the person. So Lisa, if you want her to email, I know you're getting.
I can put. Did you get the original email I sent out, Kaidia?
No, ma'am.
I'll put my email address in the chat, and then you can send it, and then I can ship it over to Kelley since she's got her screen share.
Okay, thank you, because I was invited here, so.
We're really glad to see you. I said pass it along to everybody. You didn't have to be an APSE student member, so I always love when people pass it along and we get new folks on.
I think, Lisa, you don't have your Zoom doesn't have a time limit, does it, or does it?
Oh no, I'm Zoom Pro.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you don't have the email, you can send it here. Here's my email address, and my email is up. So
some of us have those Family Dollar Zoom counts.
No, I don't have the free one. Yeah. For this reason, because sometimes these sessions last an hour or two. So as long as everybody wants to go, I'll keep it open.
Sounds good. All right. Well, while we wait on some more resumes to come to Lisa or me, we can go to another one. Let's see.
And if you guys have questions or comments about someone's resume, I hope everyone has Aaron's attitude about, just ask, comment what's good, what's bad, or what you like, don't like, it's fine. Or what your questions
about. This is all feedback just because we want you to get the job, so don't take it personally. It's just to help improve and help you get the job.
Cool. Is Colin on? Okay. Well,
Colin might not be on, but we are recording this, so you'll have to
great.
check it later.
Well, Colin also sent us a really good resume. It looks like we have his email address, and I'm assuming this, theculturetap.net would be the website he currently works for, or his personal website. And here he does have a professional statement, but I would love for him to go more in depth with this. He's telling us he's extended hands-on and experience in education, demonstrates strong work ethic and creative ability, exceptional level of versatility, gained from a wide array of managerial technical skills in the journalism field, and fast learning abilities with the passion in my field with the commitment to succeed. So for Cullen, I would do an exercise that I give to some of my new writers, and pretend that someone is tapping you on the shoulder. And after every sentence that you're writing, they're saying how, when, where. They're asking you the questions of the 5 W's. And if your professional statement isn't somehow answering some of those questions that a person may be asking, that means that the recruiter and hiring manager will have the same questions. So I know it sounds good to have some of the generic information on there, but I would definitely consider expanding upon that.
And as you guys can see, when you have these professional statements, if they're all saying, to Kelley used a great word, generic. If you know, if it's generic, it's gonna feel and read like others. So you want, again, this to be specific and tailored to you and the why you should be getting this position. Not why you want it, but why you should get it. Why I should hire you.
Right. And I do love that Cullen has his professional and relevant experience as well. And he was a beat writer at Montgomery Biscuits. I love that he was a staff columnist at the Hornet Tribune. I don't have to go and look to find out what he was doing and where it is. And I do love that he listed a lot of that. So I can definitely appreciate.
And he hit the order that we've been talking about too. Education's lower, references are there if you want them. It saves me a step. Again, this is just me to Lisa's point about a hiring manager and the work environments that we're in today. There's just so many. When you say it was a staff columnist, well, I gotta have one good column that you can cite. You know, did he do something on Mo Williams on the basketball team? You know, just something that, you know, we can, one reference, and it doesn't make it over a page. It doesn't add a whole lot to, you know, slow me down and interrupt the flow of it. It just gives me some specific about him and what he did, as opposed to, again, love the word, Kelley, generic.
Okay, anyone have any questions about Cullen's resume? All right, we can move on to another one I have.
One thing I want to add that applies to every resume, just please check it over. Make sure you don't have grammar mistakes. We have received those. I had one with the wrong phone number. I emailed this person a couple of times, and I was going to call him, and he had the wrong phone number on there. And I said, wow, you know, so that's been done. Leon Carter, who works with me at The Athletic and is our director of talent development. He's an editorial director there for many years, was a sports editor at the New York Daily News. He had a letter addressed to him and had him working at the New York Post. So obviously that went right into the garbage. So just don't discount looking it over, be careful, and have a couple other extra sets of eyes on it, because sometimes we can't even see our own typos. Just make sure that resume is perfect before you send it in.
Yes. Agreed with Lisa. And there are some things like Grammarly and programs like that could really help you out with some of those typos and grammatical errors that you have. So yes, double yes to what Lisa Wilson just said.
Especially if you're trying to be a line editor.
That part. Well, we have Miss Alexis Black. I love Alexis' resume because it's clean, and that's something we all can appreciate. I would definitely develop the objective into a professional statement and not tell me what you're looking for, but tell me what you lend. what you bring and why I should hire you. This is where you sell yourself. So I would definitely expand upon the objective, change it up a bit. I love the expected graduation date. I am excited about your graduation. So that gives me a lot of things here and tells me who you are as a student and what you're doing. So I think that goes back to when Lisa did say that sometimes the education matters for college students. This is absolutely an example of that. And it looks like, Alexis, your experience here as student reporter, contributor, intern, volunteer, secretary, and then you were vice president over at APSE. I like this.
Thank you.
I like organizations too, because it kind of shows me, you know, that you're taking some initiative to do something outside of this work.
Yeah, I love that you have your volunteer, as a student, you have that volunteer experience, your honors in leadership. So that's definitely very important.
It's interesting, Kelley, that you mentioned the volunteer, because that sort of jumped out at me as well. I can't really add much to what Kelley said, because I think she hit all the high points. Again, the objective, as she said, needs to be polished, and it just, again, tell me what the job would do for you. Tell me what you would do for your outlet. This one tells you what the job would do for me, and that's not the direction you want to go. But I do agree. It's one of the things that being clean is, as Kelley said, is the organization of it. So it gives me an insight to, okay, this person can departmentalize, can attack, multitask, if you will, just being able to say, I got this, I can handle what you throw at me. So.
And we probably would just change objective to professional summary, right, Kelley? Yeah. Professional statement, yeah.
As soon as you guys mentioned it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to change that whole.
You know, what I also like about organizations, organizations can be additional references that you're getting on your resume without even listing 10 people. Because I'm reading this resume and I see you're part of North Carolina A&T's APSE student chapter. And I'm like, oh, well, I know David Squires. I'm gonna ask David Squires about Alexis. So sometimes, just depending on the organization you belong to, hire managers know people within those organizations and will reach out to them to kind of get a little bit more intel on you. And that can sometimes help you get that phone call for the job.
And Alexis, so Alexis is on. I missed Alexis, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so here's what I would also suggest. And this goes back to my, if you guys haven't figured it out, I love that little detail about yourself. When you say you pitch story ideas, right? That's great. But which did any of them get, accepted? Did anyone take one of your ideas and run with it?
I understand. I also noticed how, like, from the previous resumes, you said just get more into detail about, stuff like that. But I'm going to keep that in mind too.
Yeah, just if you don't have to change, because I want to hear that you pitched ideas. Because look, as an editor, I need everybody pitching ideas. That phrase is good. But if there's one that, again, that you were like, oh, I pitched a story on, X, and it was good, and it turned into something bigger, mention it. Again, look, we're talking 10 words maybe. I'm not asking everybody to, give me the lead or the nut graph of what it was that was accepted, just that you had success.
Right, I agree with that. And what that shows, Alexis, is that you're good at idea generation, and that's huge for a writer or an editor. You want somebody who can come up with ideas. So if you had an idea that you pitched to an editor and it was a really good story and it ran, I mean, that is telling the story and might make that person want to call you for an interview to talk more about that.
Okay. So you're basically saying that you want us to put in here not what the job can do for us, but what we can do for the job and what we can offer and what we can give to make the job even better than what it is now, or even more than what you have right at the current time.
Absolutely, because we want to know, you know, and you can get into this more, you know, if you get the interview, but you want to talk about your skills and specifically how that's you're going to read the job description before you apply. So you're going to know what people are looking for. So you can, and hopefully you have a program with your resume. You know, some are professionally done and really fancy, and you might not be able to constantly change it. But if you're doing your own resume, you can tailor that to maybe you have all your experiences on it, but maybe there's something you did that really kind of fits that job description that you can put into the resume. You don't have to get specific, like, I want to work at the athletic. You don't have to even mention the organization by name when we say make it specific to that organization, but look at the job description. What are they looking for? You might be able to change that with a specific example. Just tells you a little bit more about you and what you can do.
Yeah, because they'll basically already have like an idea already. You know what you're applying for, so there's no need to try to really put that in there because they already know and have an idea of what it is you already know as well. So I understand that. My next question also is community service also important, just like volunteering? Because like community service hours, being a part of the community, being active, can also show that company or that position that you're applying for, that you're also, as a reporter out there, getting to know these people in the community, getting to know the events that go on yearly, things like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because guess what? In the community is where stories are. There is no story that ever starts at 10,000 feet. All of them are local stories that become national stories. So you definitely want to do that. Now, to your earlier question, ambition is a great word. It's not an enemy. We're all looking for ambitious people to take the job to another level. So when you see a job description and what we're looking for, that's not all we're looking for. We want you to take that and make it your own. We want you to own whatever it is that you're applying for. So, you know, ambition is a good thing. So be ambitious when you're talking about it. But you are absolutely right. Don't tell me what I can do for you. You got to talk about what you can do and where you can take it and why I need you.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, and yes, community engagement is very important. So you definitely, if it's an a volunteer basis or anything for that manner, you definitely want to put that, because we do look for community engagement. And this is also a good time to refer back to Lisa's link that she gave us for the action verbs that you see on this screen. So for example, Alexis, for you, if you pitch stories, you could say you successfully demonstrated stories that were pitched and greenlit to, you know, be reproduced for the masses or something to that manner. But this is a good time where you can visit that very useful link that Lisa sent out for your action verbs and add some of those to your resume as well.
And what a great pitch that was right there from Kelley. Just successfully pitched. Not just threw them out there and didn't nobody kick it back, but now you've told me, hey, they were accepted. And then if you add what, you know, the best one, you're golden. And to Kelley's point about community engagement, if you were applying for a job at Andscape and you were out in the community, my goodness, that would help.
Yes, definitely.
Got you. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome, but great job with this. I really, really love to look at student resumes. This is very well put together. Before I move on, anybody have any more questions? All right, well, Ben, we are going to shoot to you. Is Ben on the call? We didn't look at Ben, did we already?
I believe he is on the call.
I am on the call. Thank you guys for hosting this. Just like Aaron, like as many pieces of constructive criticism, I love it. So, but thank you guys.
Okay, so for Ben, we would love, oh, here I am. I forgot I was on the screen anymore. We would love to see your professional statement on here. That's the first thing I see that we are missing. I do love, again, y'all know I'm a good sucker for a clean resume. I do see, were you employed here in 2 different stages? Because I see 2 different dates. Okay, associate editor and intern. So you started out as an intern and you got a promotion. Congratulations to associate editor. That's pretty huge. I do love that you have a number. So you published 107 stories to the site as of May 3rd. So that tells me you have bylines. So you can definitely tell stories in bulk. And we need a lot of doers and writers when it comes to storytelling. So that lets me know I can count on you and call on you if I needed to assign stories. So that's very important. I love that you sold yourself and you said you were the first to report something. That's very important. I love that you did that here. This is a very solid resume. You did use some action words in here. I can appreciate that. And under your tools, you told us more than just Adobe Creative Cloud. And again, I'm guilty of that too, because I'm like, I know all of the Adobes. I don't need to tell you which ones, all of them. So I can appreciate that you did tell me, you know, Photoshop, Tempest. Knowing WordPress is very important. Another key word that people use for WordPress is content management system. So that's something you can add because WordPress is, people have different content management systems. So that's a good word that could pick up the computerized key skills that they're looking for. And this is good.
I love the first to report. That's again, just a little bit of nugget. You had down under Bricktown, you had stood as the lone writer. You know, there are just things that make me say, okay, you're not just talking that you're doing stuff, you're actually telling me and showing me examples subtly of what you're doing. And it's a lot about word choice. I think Kelley hit it with professional statement we like to see. I would bump down the education, back down where you know, the tools and skills. But I agree, aside from the professional statement of why I should hire you, or, you know, and bumping that down, I agree. I think it's solid. I love the detail. I love the numbers. It gives me an idea of your work and the engagement that you generated with your work. Because it's not just, you know, to throw it out there and nobody's hitting on it, you sort of, it must didn't do well. But at least if you're showing us what you did and the fact that you're willing to put in some work is also good. So you're giving us context and you can see you can do this in a page. You know, I can still get an example or two and still limit it to what I need, even though, like Lisa says, you can go over that if need to. But again, I agree, Kelley. This is good. It's clean. It's solid. Just some couple of minor tweaks, I think, with professional statements and bumping down education.
Yep, definitely giving me go-getter.
And as you guys talked about on the professional statement, I'm going to make one right after this. But like, what are some qualities that you guys would like to see in that section?
Sell yourself. If you are award-winning, let's say that. I feel like just by me reading that, I could successfully say that I am a content producer with hundreds of bylines. Look, that 107 took me to hundreds. So that's where you kind of sell yourself, you know, a mass content producer with hundreds of bylines to several different organizations, including Sports Illustrated, cover NBA teams. You got the Thunder here.
A track record for breaking news.
Yep.
So you know, though it's a phrase. I mean, I know Lisa and Kelley would all be like, if you say I have a track record for breaking news, I'm like, oh, okay. And all of the things Kelley's talked about being you're not saying, oh, I've got a good work ethic. You're saying I have done this, which translates to a good work ethic. You're telling me I have a track record for breaking news. I have also done this, hundreds, thousands, etc. That resulted in, so those are the words, Ben, that I think you would be looking for in a professional statement, just to show me what you're doing. Now, that's a generic one, and then you modify it for Andscape, you modify it for the athletic, you modify it for AP, for whatever that job is, but all of those things I mentioned, track record for breaking news and all the things that Kelley did mention, they work for all of our outlets. You know, those work for everything, for each one of us, in my opinion. So
awesome. And then like on like the numbers of like I broke 14 stories, would it be useful to like go more in detail on that and maybe say like, this is an example of a story that I like broke, or for like an article, like this is an interview I conducted?
Take the biggest one. So what's if you had one that you were like, oh yeah, that was a good one. That was a good get. If you thought it was a good get, which one, you know, you would think about that was a good get for you? You know, that sat down. Did I sit down with one of the Thunder guys? Did I pull one of the Cowboys aside? You know what I mean? And get an exclusive, or at least some time that I can say was, you know, an SI only piece. But one, and especially if it then, you know, got picked up by any other organizations, is because we had to credit you. So you're on our wire, the AP wire, because, you know, as a member, then we credited you. So whatever that one might be, because again, I'm big into that one example when you say first to report, you know, the transactions during the season. That's, you know, hell, I can even go back to a quick hyperlink. I'm not saying I'm going to do it like Lisa mentioned, but I might go back to it when I move you to the next stack.
Okay, and like with those stories and just like in general, like for a website or something, if I would like to hyperlink that, where's a good place to put those in there?
I would do it where you reference the breaking, or, you know, you reference a story, just hyperlink. And, you know, when you say including, hyperlink it. I don't want to see it, me personally. I don't necessarily need to see that in the professional statement. I don't need that up that high. But when you're giving me the experience and then you give me that sample of what you're doing, I would say hyperlink it when you know, to that, here you go. Because again, as Lisa said, I'm not asking you for the nut graph. I'm not asking you for the news peg. I don't need that. I just need, yeah, I did this because I got Kelley Evans one-on-one and boom, you know, including, you know, my one-on-one with Oprah. Then I hyperlink to it. Anybody else?
Awesome. Well, thank you guys.
Anybody else on Ben? Come on. It was nice, but can't we crush him a little bit?
Maybe add, or I'm saying he's trying to keep it to a page, but if there's room for organizations or anything like that, it might be good to add that.
Forgot that one.
All right, well, I guess we can move to the next one here. Who else do I have?
And when I say it can be more than a page, you don't want like a page and 5 sentences on the next page. It is the next page. So if Ben didn't have enough to carry over, you know, is there somewhere we can kind of
that's a good question
here and there and add some other information about them?
That's a good question, Lisa. And I ask you and Kelley, if you're going to go more than a page, when you go 2 full pages, or would
if you have it, or at least a page and a half, I think I'd want to see. But if it's almost like when you try to jump 10 lines of a story for old newspaper, it's not enough. You just want to have enough to make it worth my while to go reading on that next page.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cause
you don't want to look like you're bad at editing or trimming.
There you go. That's what I
want it to be really good stuff. That makes me want to carry over and read it. Give me a reason to go to the next page.
That was what I was getting at. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well,
I also sent mine in to both of you guys.
Okay, I'll check that shortly.
I added a couple, Kelly, and sent them to the original thread we had them on. So
okay,
we can make
sounds
sure.
good.
You can let me know what you got in the chat.
Sure. All right. We can go to Drew. Drew, are you on?
No, Drew is interning at the Arizona Republic, so he's not going to be on tonight, but he is going to catch the replay on YouTube, so we can still do his critique.
Okay. Well, here is Drew. And Drew, again, did a good job of telling me his journalism experience here, his organizations here, all of his awards, which I love that he listed those because these are really good awards to have. Under his skills, he tells us he knows he didn't do the generic like I do with Adobe, with Creative Cloud. He told me he knows Audition, InDesign, Premiere. He's worked in MailChimp, which is really good because that tells me he knows how to send out an e-news blast. So
or newsletters, which is big in a lot of organizations.
Yeah, right. So that tells me he can do that. He knows Microsoft Office, and again, he knows the CMS WordPress. He does have hyperlinks in here. So, oh, no, they're not hyperlinks. They're just, oh, they're not hyperlinked. Okay, well, I thought he did, but these don't have hyperlinks turned on yet. I would definitely include a professional statement, and it looks like he's graduating this year, so he could bump his education down a bit as well. And we can focus on his professional statement and his journalism experience. And I would just add a little bit more, as Oscar said, to the journalism experience and exactly what he's done within the organization. I like at the Daily Northwestern, he says that he organized weekly content and game coverage for a 5-person Northwestern football beat. So that lets me know what he did, where he was, who was on the team, and how it doesn't tell me how he executed, but I love that he told me that. He edited 7 to 9 articles per week for daily style and accuracy. That's good. And he spearheaded joint football issue between the Daily and the University of Illinois' student newspaper. So I do appreciate here where he gave me some cumulative information that could help me weigh in on exactly what he did. I like how he frames those.
So he's specific about what he did.
Right, very specific. So he went for, no, I don't have to give you a lot of bullet points, but with the bullet points that I did give you, I can tell you this specifically what I did.
And I like that he just used a couple of bullet points so he could get into his awards and organizations. Yep. Yeah,
and Ben, to your question earlier, you know, in this one where with Times Media, where he says including high school football championship games, that could have been that interview, and you could have hyperlinked it to one story right there. So I agree with everything Kelly and Lisa said. I do think he touches on some of that specifics. I'd still like one meaty one, like when he authored 175 articles, including preview. Give me one, you know, the one that was really good. And again, this is sort of my pet peeve looking at this, but I would still say he's given me enough specifics and not, go back to Kelly's word, generic, you know, language that I would move him to the next pile to say, okay, let me dig deeper. I've got enough here that says, okay, you know, depending on, again, the job, we're just going on what we've got in front of us, but this would be the type of resume that I think would get moved to the next stop. You know, you want to go forward, and you don't want to be stagnant in the resume pile. If you stand in one stack, you're not getting any closer to getting the job. So this would be moving a step closer to the job.
Right. And I see where he probably worked at a lot of these jobs in between semesters or when he had a break, because he went to the Daily Western, I see here 3 times. So that tells me, hey, I'm busy with school, but when I'm not, I'm going to work. So that's kind of what I see here. Or he was an intern, but he did have 3 cents at the Daily Northwestern. So I can kind of see his path and to say, hey, he graduates in June, but at least I know between 2019 and now, this is what he's done. And I would definitely contact the Daily Northwestern would definitely be on my contact list to speak about him, to ask about him, since he's, you know, he's been there. It looks like he could probably go back. So I would want to know about his time there.
And it keeps that flow going that you're telling a hiring manager that I'm consistently trying to improve my craft. I'm not, you know, I'm staying in my lane and in the business of getting better. You know, even if it's going back to, you know, proving grounds, because you can always go back. Well, you can't always go back, but you can always go back if you do well. And I think Kelley has hit on that. That means that, you know, he could go back again, it looked like, if he needed to. So.
Yeah, that's what I would conclude. And I'll stop sharing my screen for a bit to check out some resumes that came in. And if you guys have any questions, keep talking to us. I know we've been on for an hour and a half. So is everybody still okay? Need water, need a break, gotta jump?
You tired of talking to us, hearing us talk? If you are, take the floor. Anything we can talk about, give you feedback. There's more generic now that you've heard some of the stuff as Kelley pulls up some more that we'll look into.
Or even about, you know, job hunting or something. It could be resumes, but it can be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be resume related.
Questions, yeah.
Would you say that posted, like, say for example, like say if you were at an internship, because I was at an internship for 3 years, but the reason why I was there for 3 years because they had me come back every year. So
that's all right. We understand.
It's okay. I had my dog with me earlier, so.
Yeah, she's defensive when people come to the door. I'm sorry about that.
I understand.
Yeah, she's a little Chihuahua wiener dog mix, so she's a little feisty.
The little ones all think they're bad.
Right, exactly. So I was saying, basically, like I was with an internship for 3 years, and like they had me come back every year because I was doing such a good job. Is that okay to have that on the resume as well, since I was there for such a long time? Like, is that a good sign, or is that just excessive?
No, I think that's a good sign. If you got called back 3 times for an internship, yeah, and you want to put that all on there. That's showing that you can, if they want to have you back for an internship, that shows you did a good job the first time, that you're dependable, that there's something they see in you that you like.
And make sure when you go back, you tell me what you did. You know, each time you went back, I'm sure, look, you had to do something right the first time for them to bring it back the second time. So what did I do right the first time? Let me highlight that. Second time, what did I do right? Third time.
And how did I grow in those 3 years?
What else have I done? Exactly. Did I get more responsibilities? Because that's what you want to show, that each time you got either you went from preps to colleges to a pro B. You know, that's just an example of the responsibilities increased each time, because if I bring you back 3 times, I'm increasing the responsibilities I'm giving you. So make sure that reflects it. And a good internship gives you an opportunity to do video, to take photos, to work the desk, to get out and report, show all your skills. So if you go back 3 times, make sure you've checked all the boxes that you say, okay, this is what I did, this is what I did, this is what I did. So yes, you know, doing it there is not a bad thing to show that. So.
And there's no shortage of interns. So they're not bringing you back just because they don't have any other choice. They're bringing you back because they like what you're doing. And that tells me a story about you just from looking at your resume.
Okay,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. We got a couple hand raised, guys.
Go with Aaron and then Charlie after Aaron.
I have 2 questions. My first one is, once you submit that resume and you submit it to the potential employer, whoever's looking at the resume, and you don't hear back for a few weeks, when is the appropriate time to reach out to reach out and see, just making sure you got my resume and, to find out what the next step in the process is?
I would say if you submit a resume and you haven't heard, you don't get some type of computer generated, we got you, then make sure you know, through the contact that's listed, that the resume was received. Then I would say, you know, you're going to probably get some kind of computer generated. It didn't happen. But if you haven't heard back from, once you know that it's there, then if you don't hear back, you know, it probably didn't go the way you hoped. So you don't necessarily have to call in, but you can always call HR or the recruiter to make sure what's the status, did the job close, where we're at, I hadn't heard anything, because everybody should hear something back. But make sure after that first week or so that you've applied to make sure it's there. That's important. Before the job closes, if you haven't got any acknowledgement or confirmation that your application had been received.
Got it. You don't have to, and it doesn't have to be so much, hey, did you get my resume? It can be, you know, I've submitted my resume. I was wondering if there's a timeline for filling the position, and I wanted to pass along 5 additional links or something like that, just to show you my work. And, you know, not in those words, but it can be like, you can actually send in a little bit more. And if they respond to you, you know that they're interested. If not, then maybe they just have a bunch of folks they haven't responded to. And sometimes, honestly, you just don't hear back from employers, but that's okay. On to the next, you know, do the same process, because someone eventually will like what you do and will get back to you.
All you need is one.
Awesome. And my other question was regarding cover letters. I know we're focusing more on resumes here, but I've always heard that the cover letters, and we had an APSE workshop last year for cover letters. It's always good to have an anecdote. Start with an anecdote. So I guess, could you just speak about, from the cover letters you guys have seen, from the ones that have stood out to you, what are some tips on cover letter writing?
Is Kelley still with us? Because she was,
yep.
There you go. That might be in your house to start.
So remember earlier on in the conversation, I told you that I started my resume, my cover letter off with something super corny, but it got the job done. I was in my 20s, of course, and it was look no further. I'm just the person you're looking for. So that was kind of one that really stood out. But yes, I would say, of course, don't use that in 2022 because it's definitely super corny. But I would definitely find something that could really set you aside from everyone else. And you could say something anecdotal. I have seen those, and I've seen good creative use of those. You wouldn't want to be corny just to be corny, but definitely find one that could benefit you.
Yeah, I think anecdotes are good. Like, honestly, you go through so many resumes and are telling a story, but sometimes that cover letter can set you apart. And when I was doing cover letters, they were horrible. I just know from the cover letters I read today, when I was younger, it was almost an afterthought because I put so much into the resume, making sure it's right. And I just sent in a couple sentences, you know, I think I could be an asset to your organization, something you see in like so many. I didn't really say what I could specifically do for that organization or present part of a plan of how I would attack the beat if I was looking for a beat. I didn't do that. They were horrible. But to your point on anecdotes, I have called people based on their cover letters. And I'll tell you why. Everybody applies, and a lot of folks do this at the Athletic. I love the Athletic. I love the work you do. I've always wanted to be, even some of those folks who might have jobs that aren't in journalism, I've always been interested in sports. It's something I want to do. Well, a lot of people tell me that. But I've had cover letters that have told me my father was critically ill. And he told me before I was going out to games, write what I can't see on TV. It's the best advice I've ever gotten. And I use that to that day. That captured my attention. And I want to know more about you because that's what you want. You want someone who's going to go out and cover a game and write what you can't see on TV. That made me call that person. Another person, I've told some of these stories before, so if you've been on any of these Zooms with me, forgive me if you've heard these. Another student told me he had a stuttering problem. And the first day of class, he got up and tried to participate in class. The words wouldn't come out. He was so embarrassed, he just sat back down, didn't say much more for a few weeks after that in class. But through sports journalism, he was able to kind of overcome his speech impediment and talk to people. It was through interviewing and just how much sports journalism has meant to him. That made me call him. You know, it was just a story that I was like, I wanted to learn more about that person. But you work that hard at your craft, that you've stuck with it, you know, I think you can bring those skills and really bring something to my organization. So that made me want to call you. So if there's any stories or anything that kind of tells you, you know, everybody doesn't have those type of stories, but everybody has something that they can bring to that job because you've looked at it, you've studied it, you've researched the organization. If there's somewhere you want to work, you've read stories, the kind of stories they do. What can you do? And that you can do that in the cover letter. Your resume tells that story, but your cover letter gives you a little bit more room to really tell that story and sometimes stand out in the sea of resumes.
And one of the things that, you know, Lisa just touched on, and I love what Kelley had said earlier, but one thing Lisa touched on, because you're talking about an event that you go to and in games, and game stories are, you know, getting a little passe, but they're still critical. But if I send you to a game and you guys cover a game, I should read something in your copy that I didn't see, I couldn't find in a box score, and I didn't see on TV. That's why you're there. It's a sense of place. So in your cover letter, to which I'm sure part of what stopped Lisa on when it says thing, you know, showing was something I didn't see on TV, that's what stops you. So to find something that's tailored to that organization, you know, Andscape, if you know what Andscape is about, you could be like, you know, read Jesse Washington or, you know, Mark Spears, and, you know, my writing is not there, but I love that what they do, and I think I can bring another element to it, and working there could get me to that level so I can contribute to the way they contribute. Anything that tailors it to that. And anecdotes are great, but be careful because they have to work. You know, just like everything else, it can hinder you or it can really propel you past. And that, for an anecdote on the cover letter, I would go with Lisa and Kelley also, whether you can afford getting it professionally done or not, just get another set of eyes or two to see if it works. Don't get a bunch of yes people around you. Get somebody who's gonna tell you the truth.
Kelley, did you get the additional resumes?
Well, Charlie had a question.
Did you get full? Oh, I'm sorry.
I got
Well, it's okay. You can come back to me later. It's fine.
No, you had your hand
up.
No,
go ahead. I'm sorry, I forgot you.
I don't know how long it held you when you hold your hand up that long.
But I was gonna ask like more of like a career related question for Miss Evans. I also want to produce, and I just got an internship this summer, but it's like a news internship, but I want to produce for like a sports or entertainment show and like television. So I was just like, what kind of advice do you have like in terms of kind of moving your way into like the different kind of market from like news to sports?
Sure. So one thing I would say is to be a sponge and utilize what's in front of you and ask for opportunities to shadow other producers. And that's definitely, even if you have to do it, like if you have a Saturday that you're free and you don't have anything to do and it's off work hours, you can definitely identify a producer who you're looking to shadow and ask them for time to shadow. They may have you do COVID testing now, and some of the stipulations have changed, but that's one thing that could be very beneficial to you moving forward. Identifying people who you really like in the industry and ask them for shadowing opportunities.
Thank you.
Let me ask a follow-up for Charlie, because it's always fascinating to a lot of people. Like you say, you covered the NBA. You know, just so you guys know, I was the NBA editor at USA Today for a number of years. We won't want to start aging myself out, but and now I do a lot of NBA here. So Kelley has gone from us, you know, being a NBA writer, being a producer to on a lot of entertainment production. So is it, Kelley, for me, I would think there's a lot of basic news judgment that you carry from one to the other in terms of identifying good stories, standards that you apply, et cetera, that translate from one department or one platform to the other?
Absolutely. Because I was able to start off as a writer before I became an editor, and I was kind of doing both at the same time. I worked for a historically Black paper in Memphis. And I also want to say to all of you, if you're looking for bylines and opportunities and some of the big papers aren't calling you back, utilize some of your non-traditional papers in the community that you live in or that you go to school in. It doesn't have to be a Black paper. It could be any
Weekly
paper off the beaten path. And they always look for good writers or writers who want to come in and pitch in to help. So that would be a good thing. But I started my career off at a historically Black paper. So after covering the NBA for like, I think my 5th year there, I was promoted to college's editor. So I was still the NBA beat writer, but I was able to hire and edit a lot of our under our college beat. So the University of Memphis, some of the HBCUs in the area, some high school sports as well. I was able to edit that. So a lot of that brought me to ESPN, where I could have good news judgment for a story. I knew how to write a story and I knew how to edit the story. I knew how to cultivate new writers at that point. And when I switched over to producing, I kind of knew I excelled in it pretty fast. And Lisa will tell you, I was not happy about going to production at all. I was like, no, I don't want to. But since then, I probably produced over 400 shows between sports and entertainment and culture. So it's been far more exciting than I thought. I thought I would just miss editing and storytelling, but I still do, but producing it stole my heart and I didn't think it would. So to Oscar's point, definitely think about what you've already done. Think about people in positions that you see as editors, as writers that you really look up to, and shadow them as well. And that'll show you how you can tell a full news story, because it's not easy. You got to know back timing, rundowns. You got to be available 24 hours a day. You have to coddle your talent. You have to media train. You have to have a good ear and eye for what's not working. You have to know how to run an entire control room. And it did come natural to me, and I just didn't think it would, but it did.
That's just for being a producer, right? Like that's just for that role itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I think that
one thing I would add to that, I'm sorry, Oscar, but one thing I'd add to that, Charlie, is sometimes it might not be the job you want immediately, but it can lead to the other job. And you have to really embrace that and do a great job, or you're never going to get to where you want to go. When I started out, I was a 3-month paid intern. I'm from Buffalo and I still live here. Spent most of my career at the Buffalo News, but I started out at the Niagara Gazette. That's the Niagara Falls, New York paper. And it was covering town government. And I wanted to be a sports writer. I did not want to do it. I did not want to cover town government. I did not want to cover school boards. And if I had blown that off, little did I know that months later, an opportunity was going to open up in sports. If I didn't do a good job of that and embrace it and try to, even though it wasn't personally what I wanted to do, if I didn't say, okay, this is my job, I need to do well, I need to show what I can do, I need to put the same effort into this as I would in the sports writing job, I would have never been considered for that position. But because I did well in that job and asked questions and learned, that opportunity opened up for me. So sometimes I recommend young folks when they're looking for jobs, sometimes take the job you can get, because take the job you can get, you do well at that job, it's always going to lead to other things, because surprisingly, you'll find you can learn something in every position that's going to help you in the next position.
And that was and thank you, Lisa and Kelley, because that was my point, Charlie. I think that there's no shortcut to longevity. You know, you're looking at some people that have been doing this for a while, and we've had some success, and now we're, sort of enjoying ourselves at the moment. But yes, what you're doing now will help you identify a news story or in a story period or a good story and help you tell it regardless of the platform that you're telling it on. So that is what I wanted to make sure you drive home, and that, you know, doing news, because sports isn't games anymore. That's just so a minuscule part of it. It's human interest, it's jurisprudence, it's business, it's war. You know, there's, whether you talk about COVID, Russia, Ukraine, the pandemic, recession, all of that impacts sports. Whether you want to talk about Kyrie and the world is flat, Rogers lying about being vaccinated, domestic abuse, whatever it is. But you get to learn how to identify and tell a story wherever you are. Do the job you get, and don't worry about the job you want, because if you do it the wrong way, you're not going to ever get it. So, sorry to ramble, but.
Yeah. Oh, no, so what you were saying.
No, thank you.
So basically what you were saying is like, don't be scared of like that position. Basically get the position that you're going to be given. You can work your way into knowing how to handle all of those roles once you get to where you want to be, because you're working your way up to that. Is that pretty much what you're like saying?
Yeah. Yeah. People will absolutely tap you on the shoulder and ask you to do stuff. I'm like Lisa, I started off in a cops beat, and I'm chasing, we literally had to listen to a radio and listen to where the police were going and chase where they were going at 2 a.m. for this mass shooting or whatever, fire or whatever's going on, and write that story from there. But that taught me how to own a beat. So if I didn't have that experience, some of the issues that I have with a lot of new writers today, they don't know how to own their beat. And that taught me, I can wake up, if this is my beat, I can literally wake up to give my editor 7 pitches for the day. You know, and Lisa knows I would wake up with 10 stories written a day on my beat that I had. And I was an editor writer at that time. So that taught me a lot of resilience. And now that's why I'm tapped on the shoulder. Hey, can you work on this? Like, why? But okay.
And take away from what Kelley just said. It's not just you talking about excelling and then somebody coming to get you, but now Kelley knows who the POI is for the cops. So if, you know, inevitably somebody on your football team gets arrested, we're not going to call anybody's name because y'all can just insert XXX here. But now I know who to call with the cops. I don't need the news guy to come over to help me figure out who the police investigation is and who do I need to get the statement from, et cetera. And you also might have sources in the police department that's going to translate to everything else you do. So you know where to find the answers to your questions. So there, again, excel at what you're doing, and everybody's going to give you more responsibilities.
Okay, I think Kelley, we probably have some more resumes, including Nate sent his in today. So that was one that came in right before the Zoom started. And then we got 4 additional ones tonight.
Oh, wow, we got 4 and we just talking?
Yeah. I know, we got 4 additional, yeah.
I mean, we can, listen, I can hang out as long as the students want to hang out.
Yes, if you guys get bored, tell us to stop.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I will go ahead and share my screen again and go to Nate. Let me pull his resume up. And here we go. Share screen, here we are. Right, here is Nate. All righty. So with Nate, as in a lot of the resumes that we've seen this evening, we need a professional statement from Nate. I would love to see that here. I do love, and we can bump the education down a little bit, but it still works. That's a personal preference because Nate is currently a student. His skills could bump down a bit. So Nate, you can move your skills down a bit and go straight to your experience and tell me what you bring. And give me a little more information behind that experience. put a little more weight on it. I like this. One thing that I did notice in Nate's is the graphics and social media posts. So Oscar touched on it a bit earlier, that watch your social media, but the fact that Nate can give us social content and social posts, that's very, very important in 2022. A lot of employers are looking for social, people within their social media department. I know at Andscape, we call them social producers, digital producers and social media producers, but it's an art to be able to do that. So I can appreciate Nate here and everything that you've done and everything that you've showed me. I like the coordinate completion of an order of 30+ meals for a team on game day, home and away. That tells me that you're organized and you can do a lot of stuff within a team environment. So I do like that. So the only feedback that I have is to give me more description, use some action verbs, and a professional statement at the top.
And I would add play up to what Kelley said. And again, this would be tailored to the job that you're going for, but I couldn't agree more about the social media. You know, we got people out looking for UGC content, that we'll call it, that, you know, when you've got with iPhones, and then we've got to get permission to use it. And so it's definitely a skill when you use it as a lead. You know, and understand that that's what all social media is for us. And, you know, SEOs and the way people consume, and which is why headline writing is important, you know, what is going to grab readers. And Nate is giving us an opportunity to show that he has experience in trying to promote, sell, and grab attention for. And so then tell us if it works, and you've had some, you know, the numbers are impressive enough, to Kelley's point about fleshing that out. Play up what works for you, and give us more when you start talking about assistant production and broadcasting. What are you specifically doing when you're assisting? So and everything else, I think Kelley's hit on, bumping stuff down and reorganizing instruction and structure, but play up what you've done that works well for you.
Right, I appreciate you. I have 2 questions though. So for the first question, for the professional statement, so would I put that right under where my name, address, my portfolio link is? So because I'm gonna obviously move like the education down and whatnot, put that statement underneath my portfolio.
Yes.
Yeah, and Nate, again, I'm sure you were on earlier. Maybe again, go back to that list of active words, and for me right now, I'm playing up that social media, you know, successful track record in promoting and engaging readers for content. I mean, that's the kind of language that would attract me to you, because if that's a strength and that's your sweet spot, then let's go for it. But again, it's those action words and playing up your strengths and telling me why it's there, because Kelley and Lisa are right. We're all looking for ways to get readers, younger readers, to get engaged and click on our content and go to go to that story. And you've got experience in doing that.
Right. And then my other question was with the references. So now y'all had talked about where you don't really look at references off the bat. Mine aren't on my resume, because I've had some people tell me to, like, if they ask for them, you can send them, but to not always put them with your resume. If you had somebody that was, say, like somebody big in the industry, you would high profile people as your references, is that something that you would want to put on there? Because that would, you know, it would draw attention to the rest of your resume.
I'd say yes. And I'd say this, Nate, this is me. Again, Lisa and Kelley might disagree, but they might not. The other experience, which you put at the bottom of your resume, right? And you put it there for a reason, because you're like, well, that's probably the least most relevant thing about me right now. So in your case, if I restructured, have a professional statement and education and skills and pushed it down, well, the other experiences are gone anyway. If I've got room though, I would put references instead of the other experiences that will not bring me, in most cases, that, because as Lisa pointed out, the more experience you get that's related to the job you want and in the industry, the other experience is going to fall off anyway. So if you've got a way to move it now, I would do it.
For sure. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the feedback. It means a lot.
Thank you.
I'm like, and they can cook. Like, hold up now. And he can cook. Okay, Nate, okay. We see you.
While I got this on my mind, when we wrap up at the end, Oscar, Kelley, if you wouldn't mind sharing their email addresses, if people redo their resumes, maybe they can email them.
You want me to drop it in the chat?
Yeah, you can drop it in the chat. Kelley, I think yours was in there earlier, but if you want to drop it in again.
Yeah, I'll re-put it in here so you guys can see it. So that brings us to Charlie.
We haven't had as much time to look at these, but we can kind of roll through and give some.
Yeah, we can go through. We saw everybody else's before, but again, with Charlie, we're back at, we need a professional statement from you. I would love to see that here. I love that you're class of 2023, so I like that you mentioned that here. In journalism and mass communication, so I'm excited for your career. But your experience looks very good. So you did the NABJ short course. I like that. You have your internship. You are the co-producer for Aggie News. For those, I would love to know the dates of are you currently doing those, or is that something that you did prior? I would love to know your dates here. And your related coursework, same thing. I would add some dates to when you did that. If you're currently doing it, would love to know where, when and where. And your extracurricular activities, they look very good. Your software experience, iNews, Adobe Premiere Pro, and Premiere Rush. I don't see that often, so that's good. That's a good one to know that people are looking for. So I do love that, and that's it. Any other feedback for Charlie?
I would say.
Oh, go ahead.
One
thing I like, and I'm not saying if your resume isn't set up like this, you need to change it, because I think everybody kind of has their own style and what they want to do for resume. But I do like how Charlie's experience is her bullet points. It's different. Yeah. It's stopping me, and I'm reading through there. Yeah. And I like that's approach, because usually they're set up a different way, and that's okay. But I do like how she did this.
I love it.
And I would say, going back to my little pet peeve, you guys have heard me say all evening, is even probably just adding the times and the time the time frames that you were there that Kelley asked about is going to make it a little longer. But also, if you give me an example or two, and then I'm knocking out Chick-fil-A, because everything else is relevant to what you're doing now. I'm not saying Chick-fil-A isn't, and I give you props, because Chick-fil-A, you can't, you weren't at McDonald's. You one of the people that was, you got to have some customer service skills.
Yeah, like my pleasure.
I think something you do, and I've done this too, when you first start out doing a resume, you feel like you have to get every job you've ever worked on there. You don't necessarily have to do that.
Make it, tailor it to what you're doing now if you can. Mm-hmm. Again, I go back to what Lisa said, which was all of that drops off the more experience you get. But if you're able to keep it tailored to what you're doing, you're already ahead of the game. But I agree with everything everybody else said about, the tweaks that we would suggest. But I agree, Lisa, doing it with the experience sort of, he's like, okay, wait, he does stop you. It's different. And that's what you want. Something that makes me set apart.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean everybody go tear apart your resume. It just means, Charlie, I'm giving feedback on your resume, and I do like how you did that. And I agree, put some dates in there.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I only put Chick-fil-A because of what Mr. Dixon said. Like, I just felt like Chick-fil-A is like, it has a reputation. So I was like, I'll just put it at the end, but I can take it out.
Yeah, it is. It's great. And obviously we all picked up on it. Even we got a joke on the My Pleasure. So I'm with you. I feel you. But again, you don't need it.
Right. Think about your resume almost like if you're writing a story. You're going to get more that you're going to use. And what's the most important thing to put in? I'd rather see the professional summary statement than Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions about Charlie's resume?
Questions, comments?
Concerns? Okay. Well, we can go to the next one here. We already looked at Drew. Who else's do I have? That was Nathan's. We got Charlie's here. I think Jordan's. Let's look at, oh, there's Kadia's. Let's look at, is it Jari or Jari?
Jari, ma'am.
Okay, let's look at Jari and see what we have here. All right, and again, turn your objective into a professional statement. And you'll be good here. Use some action words and sell yourself. Tell me what you lent to the job. You can bump your education down, although I like that honors. Congratulations to you. Good stuff here. Let's see. Let's look at this here. Your experience, football videography. 2020 to present, record every practice and live game, make sure you have the appropriate camera angle, use camera precisely, film every play. So what I would say for this one, Spectacular Magazine, Mount Zion Baptist, photographer, reporter, A&T Register. I like that we're not over there. Again, I like that all of you don't overextend your bullet points. So I can definitely appreciate that. I would challenge you to research a few resumes of people who are into football videography and kind of take a look at how they describe their skills and what they've done there, and think about if you have used some of that for your own, in your own space, and tailor it to fit what you've done. So, and that'll give you a little more weight on what's happening in the football videography world, because I would like to know, you record every practice and live games. Do you travel with the team or just home games? I know you said every practice and live game, but I would definitely love to hear more about that.
And I think, Kelley, you're right on point. It's the language. All of these things you're using and stating is important, but when you say you make sure you have the appropriate camera angle, again, it's language. Don't, and I'm gonna say this, and please take it with just the feedback as intended, but don't give me Captain Obvious. You need to have the correct, the appropriate camera angle, because you didn't, we'd have trouble. You mentioned, you say you covered real life games. And then again, language. What kind of games are there? Are there fake games? Are there fake news? What are you talking when you say real life? Obviously, is it live? And then again, this is just paying attention to that detail, to go back to Lisa's and Kelley's, the active words you want to use and how you want to portray it. Because everything you hear, you say wrote papers. Are those stories? Is it for the newspaper or is it for internal publications?
Yeah, you want to get a little bit more specific with it, use those action verbs. So I have a question. What is JOMC experience?
It's like journalism or mass communications. That's what it stands for.
Okay, so that acronym doesn't jump out at me immediately.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what, be careful with stuff like that, because I'm not, but that acronym, yeah, now that you say that, I said, okay, I see what you're saying. But just looking at that, Oscar, Kelley, I don't know if you got that right off the bat, but I didn't. I might just say experience rather than that using an acronym that's just not an acronym that people use every day.
And I think that's real key, because we get into jargon, and you can get into it at Andscape, you can get into it at the Athletic, you can get into it in our newsroom. And if I walked into the athletics newsroom and Lisa could throw out some jargon that they use, and I'd be like, what are you talking about? And when she said it, I'm like, oh, that's similar to. So yeah, absolutely. Good point. Good catch.
I love that. You have any more questions for us about this?
Yeah, please.
I just want to say thank y'all, and how I can replace my adjective with a professional statement. Thank y'all for everything, and y'all gave me great pointers. And I also have to add dates to my resume and hyperlinks.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah.
And again, play up your strengths. You know, if it's you are writing and producing and shooting. So those are skills that would, you know, if I'm looking for a beat writer, I need them to have all those skills. If Kelley's looking for an assistant producer, you want to have those skills. No matter what it is, those all translate. So play that up. And again, I say and stress to what Kelley and Lisa have said, use language like successfully, have completed, you know, show that this is, you know, selected, you know, that you didn't only just offer something up, that it was, you know, taken and they ran with it. So.
Yeah, that list I put in the chat is great. Use some of those action verbs. It kind of helps you because, like I said, when I was resume writing, I was leaning in on make. I was using those words when there were stronger adjectives verbs, I'm sorry, that I could have used. So definitely keep that link.
And it helps you get out of the generic. It gets you out of the generic and gets you into, you know, your personal space, be able to talk about yourself. Yeah.
All righty. Well, we'll go to the next one. Thank you for this, Jerry. This is good. This is good stuff. It did.
And it's clean. To your point, Kelley, it's always good to be clean. You know, it's easy for everybody to digest without having to make it complicated.
Right. And I love your volunteer experience because you've done a lot of community engagement. So that's something that I would definitely put in my professional statement.
Yeah, same here. And another thing it shows is time management. You know, you can do all these things and still volunteer.
Yep. And that's definitely two things: time management and community engagement, and being a videographer.
Yes,
that
ma'am.
you bring to any organization.
Now you just, for if you say you wrote it, you're or at least thinking about it, Jerry, about your professional statement. Kelley just gave you three really good. This is me right here, and so I hope you were paying attention. Or if not, listen to the the recording playback.
Yep, good stuff here. I am impressed by y'all. And Kaya, did we get to you yet?
No, I don't think so.
All right, Kaya Spellman. Love Spellman here. All right, so Kaya, here's another one. I think we are missing that professional statement. And I'm glad that we are having this conversation because that means we can all get our professional statements together. I love your honors. You graduate in, oh my God, when is your graduation?
It's on May 15th.
Oh my goodness, it's so good. It's coming up. That is so
yes,
good.
ma'am. Thank you.
Look, May 15th, that's already, we done right now, Kelley. What do you mean? That's just a formality.
She's just waiting to walk.
Waiting to walk. That's it.
That is all. And what stood out to me, I did take a glance at it earlier when I first pulled it up, but your skills, you have intermediate knowledge of Chinese. And I can tell you a good story. When ESPN first started with ESPN China, they were looking for candidates who spoke Mandarin. And that was something I remember looking at a couple of resumes saying, oh my God, I did see 2 resumes come across my desk, or someone from LinkedIn sent me a resume, and on their resume, they spoke Mandarin, and I was able to refer them for that job. So this is an instance where it stands out that you speak Mandarin. So I would encourage everyone, if you speak Spanish, French, Mandarin, to make sure you're letting employees know that you're intermediate, fluent in it, or just started with any foreign language, because that makes you stands you apart from everyone else.
Professional statement, Kelley. Put it up, put it in that professional statement, because that's going to be the lead. When Kelley says that's important, that is huge, you know, and so put that in that professional statement. So we'll start to look for it and see where else you've used it or how you've used it in any of your other work experience.
Yes, it definitely sets you apart. And I live in Washington, D.C. So some of the jobs we see here do have the need for students who speak other languages. So
I agree with that. That's a really underrated thing to have on your resume, because sometimes, for example, if the Athletic is looking for a baseball writer, if you can get a Spanish speaking baseball writer, that puts you right up at the top, because sometimes you're looking to add that to your staff because you don't really have it.
You know, and you're here in Atlanta, so you know how many. If you watch the Braves, how many times we love to have somebody who can just talk to Ronald Acuna, you know, as opposed to having him talk to an interpreter.
Right. So this is really good. I'm so glad you put that there, and that sparked a different conversation for the evening. But I love your work experience with the FAA. That's very important. And Target, you do have some work experience there, and your on-campus involvement. Here, what I would love to see, and even with your BA in English, I would love to see some more internships or experience that are tailored towards your major, if you have those. And you could speak to mentors on campus or a lot of other people in the industry on LinkedIn to figure out how to get some of those since you've graduated, and you could put that in your resume as well. I'd love to see that. Your resume looked similar to mine. When I was in college, I was a mom. I was a single mom. And when I first got to college, a lot of my experience had nothing to do with my major. And at that point, I decided to kind of switch that up a little bit. And I did start going for jobs that had more to do with my major. So
yeah, I've been trying to get internships and stuff. I don't know, it's kind of tough, but yeah, I am trying to get more experience towards my major. I'm actually looking for a job like in like the legal field, or you know, something tailored towards like editing or assistance in like, I don't know, a law firm or something like that, just so I can have more professional experience tailored towards my major.
You know, and there is a lot of, to that point, you know, there are a lot of, you know, in Atlanta, there's a lot of attorneys, you know, law school grads who, you know, throw out their own shingles and are looking for help because they're the smaller law firms. And if that's what you're looking for, it's sort of like Kelley was talking about the other papers. Look for some of the smaller law firms, maybe even they're just 1 or 2 person offices, where you can go and do some work and they're gonna love you because they're just dying for help. And so you can get something on your resume. You know, what Kelley was talking about gives you that portfolio experience, because it's hard to get where you wanna go without some type of experience. But for you, based on what you just said, I would look at some of those lawyers that, you know, again, just put a shingle out, maybe a couple of years out of law school, don't have a big staff, and just looking for help.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, don't worry about the big boys, because they're just taking, you know, the creme de la creme and trying to kill them. So you may not, and you might get, and Kelley, you can talk to this, the smaller the practice, probably the more you'll get to do and the more experience you'll be able to gather. Because of the big firm, you just, you might get over there, collating papers. So just a thought.
And one good thing that people utilize a lot of English majors for, and that's copy editing. And Lisa, you can attest, we have a copy editor and she will give anybody this copy edit test. If you know her, she'll be like, hey, take this test. Just I want to see how you score. But one good thing about English majors, and her name is Karen Beard, she told me this the other day. Whenever she asked an English major to take her copy desk test, pass it with flying colors, better than any writer or editor that she's known. So that definitely could be something where you could kind of market yourself and kick the door in as a freelance copy editor, because we need copy desk editors, copywriters and copy editors. It's a really good thing to do. But yeah, this is good. I love your on-campus involvement. And here we are. So for staff writer, I would move this to the top. This would be something I would want to know. And I know it's just something that you did on campus, but it's very important to have this at the top of your resume to go along with your skills. So it's telling a story. Hey, my name is Kaidia. I'm an English major. Here are my skills. And the first thing you see, if you kind of move that up to January 2020 to present, is you're a staff writer. So I would love for that to be the first thing that I could see under work experience, or you could even change that to relevant experience. And that way it kind of incorporates everything that you've done with on-campus involvement and your work experience.
That's a great suggestion there, Kelley. I like relevant experience and shift it around.
Yeah, that is very good advice, because even if you want to get into a law firm, if you can write, there's so many things you can do in many, many fields. So I think that's important to play that up, that you can write as your staff writer.
And we cannot stress enough that not just as a second language, but Chinese, my goodness. Come on, girl.
Listen, and just opinion pieces, that's a lost art now. So the fact that you can successfully write opinion pieces, look, I'm putting successfully in front of everything, successfully write these opinion pieces, that's huge. And your various sporting events, I would tell which ones. If it's NBA, NFL, college basketball, college football, volleyball, whatever it is, I would definitely expound upon that. I would move the maroon tiger up and put a little more meat on it.
And if you had, you say present day issues and topics, if that was the pandemic, if that was, social justice, whatever it is, be specific every now and then hyperlink to one of the better ones or the ones that stand out for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And because you speak Chinese intermediately, think of a lot of relevant news stories that come out, when it's Asian American Month, try to come up with some freelance pieces and pitch it to larger organizations, because they look for pieces catered to that. So this would be great. But this is good. I like it, Kaidia.
I think what I would say here is, if you take some of the suggestions and you tweak and structure and you make that relevant experience and you bring it up and you play up everything else in that professional statement, I think there's so much here that is lost in its current structure. It's all there. It's buried. You got to dig it out. So, and that's what you don't want to force a hiring manager to dig it out. Just maybe take some of this and tweak it, and then I think you'll be good.
Okay, and thank you for all of that. And is there anything that I should do, being that I'm certain that I should do, being that I'm looking for a job like right now and I'm actively applying? Like, is there anything else that would like kind of make me stand out that you can see right now that I can do? Because I've been applying, but I haven't really heard anything back. So I knew it probably was something. So, and that's good that I'm here so I can change it and hurry up and try to get a job. But yeah, is there anything else that y'all think, being that I'm about to graduate?
Well, I would say once again, is this the resume that you've been sending out?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, no. I'm just, you're asking. So my feedback is, one, make sure when you're applying for the job to research the outlet, the firm, the practice, so you are familiar with their inner workings. Take Kelley's suggestions about this professional statement and tailor it to the position you're applying for. Highlight your writing ability, your ability to speak Chinese, and push that up. Put Spelman and skills down a little, because you've already told me in the professional statement about Chinese. Go relevant. And I think personally, it will, and Lisa, you can maybe talk to this a little bit, it will stop more employers than you have been currently, if that makes sense. I think tweaks will, because again, I think everything's here is buried and makes me dig it out. And if you can smooth that out, I truly believe it will stop more hiring managers and recruiters than you have been currently.
And make them stay with it. It's almost like a story that needs to be restructured. Sometimes you don't stick with the story if you're not following it, or if the lead is buried. Like, if that was a story, we'd say move Maroon Tiger up in the story. So I agree with Oscar and Kelley. I think just moving this around a little bit might be a little bit more effective for you.
Right. And if you still need help with that, once you've moved it around, of course, reach out to us and we'll take a look and we'll help you develop that professional statement and take a look at, and that goes for everyone, take a look at what the changes you've made and what you've done. We're happy to go back and take a look at it and provide more feedback to you guys offline as well. So we're here for you. It's not just tonight. You can contact us anytime.
Okay, thank you for the nuggets. I appreciate all that.
I actually want to share a few.
I think we have one more resume, Kelley.
Yeah, we do. And that is, we did Jerry already.
I think Josh? Jordan, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Jordan.
Yep, I'm here.
Hey.
Hey guys. Right.
How are you?
Now, yours already stood out at that professional statement. It says about me. So that already stood out to me. You utilize award-winning writing and editing skills in pursuit of a journalism and or mass communications internship. So you're looking for an internship. Under your about me, if you want to leave about me, that's fine. I think it's very clever and it stands out, but you're telling me what you're looking for. And I like that you're saying that you are utilizing award-winning writing and editing skills. So when you say that, are these from the awards that you won from this? Okay, you can actually say, instead of an aspiring journalist, I would argue to say you are a journalist.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I need to take that out.
Right, I would
take aspiring out. You're working for the paper, so you're a sports journalist.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I would definitely take aspiring out, and you can say award-winning sports journalist. You can definitely let us know, hey, listen, here I am, and this is what I can lend to your organization. So I think you can expand that a bit and move the education down toward the bottom. Same thing with your awards, and take us straight into your work experience.
Okay. Yeah, and then I've heard what you guys are saying about old work experience in general, so I can really take out all that stuff that's underneath the production for the radio show.
And add, substitute that with one or two specifics of like you know when you say you write and cover local sports for college teams as well as other national stories. Give me one or two, or give me one example. So it's already kicked out, maybe two lines of the other things that you're going to move. Same thing about, source and identity stories for publication and beliefs. Again, go back to our new word of the night, successfully, have done that. What has worked? What has worked for you? What have you done? And to Kelley's point about the about me, I loved it when she said, this is not that you want a pursuit of a journalism or you want to say that I bring to you. Because again, I think the ladies are right. You're not aspiring. You are an award-winning journalist who can bring X and X to your organization as a journalism or mass communication intern. Not looking for one, but this is what I would bring to you if you brought me in as one.
Right. And another thing that's standing out to me, so the award that you won, and Oscar, and I think you were there too, Lisa, I think we had this conversation to be mindful of some of the key words that we use, because this year I just learned that we don't use homeless anymore. So I don't even know what we're calling homeless shelters now. So we use unhoused. Now that's the popular term to use. So I love that these are community service PADs or PADs, but it's there. Think about that when we're as journalists, it's our job to keep up with that. And I know we're still learning, with the use of pronouns and just some of the verbiage that we're now using with the unhoused and mental wellness instead of mental illness. It's just so many things that we have to be considerate of. And that would stand out in a resume as well. If someone's using the proper terminology, it's a reminder to me that, hey, this person is on their P's and Q's, even in times when I'm not. If I were to see unhoused and over homeless. So I don't know what they would be called now.
A valuable resource for that, as Oscar can attest, is the AP style book. Learn that. Keep that right with you all the time. There's so many things that you don't even think about that the AP style book can help you with.
And trust me, even our desk editors at AP have that thing on the back screen, because it is an evolving publication. It changes from even to I can't even remember the date. Kelley, you might know better. And Lisa, you figured? Oops, sorry. Use profanity. When did AP finally get on board and say we're going to capitalize Black? It's like it's subtle things that change, and so it keeps evolving. So yes, you're absolutely right, Kelley.
Yeah, and I use the digital version of the AP style guide now because things change so quickly. I'm not buying another hard copy book anymore because they changed, like from homeless to unhoused. That I feel like that changed in the blink of an eye, or maybe I missed the evolution of it at some point and it just kind of hit me in the throat. But it makes so much sense. So that's another thing to look for in all of our resumes, and me included, to make sure that we are abreast of the proper terminology. This work experience, I could take out the other experience and just go with relevant experience, and you don't have to keep that here. I love that you're gig working. That says a lot about the generation now. So that you've been doing it since 2020, since the pandemic, it sounds like. So that's really good that it's here. So I can appreciate that, but we really want to focus on your relevant experience that you've done. And you can I'm sure there's some things that you've done that aren't even on the resume.
Yeah.
that you may want to
Yeah,
add
right
to.
now.
Right. So you may want to add that here too. And that's it for me. And all of you all who are in different organizations, and you too, Kaidia, make sure that you're tapping into Sigma Gamma Rho and the Alpha Phi Alpha mentorship program. Make sure if you did some volunteer work or leadership experience, when it's time for you to do other things, tap into them. Tap into Sigma Gamma Rho and say, hey, you mind if I write this article for your website? That's a byline that you didn't know could happen unexpectedly for you. So make sure that you continue to tap into these organizations and make those work for you. Make it a lifelong investment of your time.
Got it. Got you.
And if you have a national story, come on, highlight it. Pump me up, let me know, I don't know. That could be anything. It could be, if we didn't have any HBCU graduates from players that were drafted in the league last year, maybe you covered one, that becomes a national story. There is so many things that, they're in front of you that you guys have done that you're sort of, take for granted. We do it all the time, that, it's nothing that we need to promote. But I'm telling you, take away from this, that this is a story about you. The lead needs to be your professional statement that pumps me up. Then I get into supporting that lead with a news peg that is, here's what it is. And I've got my experience, and then I support everything in that lead, which is that personal statement. It's a story about you and why I should hire you. Not why you want the job, not that I'm broke, that you need the job. I don't need none of that. Now, go for it, And again, get another set of eyes to look at it if you want, and then go from there.
Gotcha.
I'm even picking up on things, to be honest, listening to, we all talk about it. Lisa and Kelley and I both all been hiring managers, but it's good sometimes to go, let me pay attention to that,
I have a question. So would you say that, me personally, I put all my content, of course I save it on my MacBook and everything, but I also have a YouTube channel as well. Would you would you say that it would be okay for us to put that link also onto our resume as well, for them to see our news content and our news packages and things like that on our YouTube channels?
Yeah. If it's packaged stuff and not, your personal YouTube channel where
you're like your business, broadcasting stuff.
I would. And I do see a lot of the younger journalists at ESPN have Vimeos. So they have their YouTubes, but they also have their professional packages on Vimeo as well. So they send me Vimeo links to all of their stuff. And again, going back to Carrie's resume, Muck Rack is like a one-stop shop for all of your professional things anyway. And you could put a link to that on your resume, and you have your digital resume there. You have your clips there. You have your reels there. You have your videos there. So between, YouTube, Vimeo, Muck Rack, those are very good things to use.
Would you also say add that to your LinkedIn account as well?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Did we get everyone who's on the call? And send in a resume? Did we do your resume? I think we hit every resume.
Oh.
I think we got them all. Did we miss anybody?
I think that was everybody.
Okay. Yeah. Did you guys have any other questions for us, or concerns, thoughts?
I'm gonna drop my email in the chat again to move it back up.
Yeah, put your email in the chat because Oscar's is right there at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but feel free, and I'm serious about this, feel free to email me anytime. I'll give you my personal too, just in case.
And reminder, May 15th, deadline for APSE and scholarships if you're interested in applying.
I think there's somebody on call who got bigger plans on May 15th.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Ben has a question.
Ben.
You guys were talking about LinkedIn earlier and people kind of like reaching out on there. What would you say is like the formula, I guess, to building a network on there and like getting time to chat with people?
When I first really joined LinkedIn a couple of years ago, I answered everybody who responded to me. Now I would say I'm not on there as often as I used to be. So for me, the formula would definitely be to introduce yourself and leave your contact information and maybe check in, follow up with the person in about 3 to 4 weeks. And those stand out for me when I do look at them. The person who, emailed me several times, they get the first return message. And I do go in and return the other messages, but that person who follows up with me will get that first return message. And a lot of things, when I first got to DC, I had a lot of students who would invite me to coffee. And I was like, this is pre-pandemic. And I thought that was neat that a lot of the student journalists in the DC area were not shy. They would find me on LinkedIn or email me on Andscape. It was the Undefeated then, on my ESPN email address, and asked me if we could meet for coffee. So that was another thing. Now that it's post-pandemic, that's something that you can do if you have someone in your area that you've identified as a person of interest. You can definitely speak to that person.
And I would say don't get discouraged, because look, there's our days. One of the reasons Lisa said this at 7 is because our days are just sort of chaotic, and there's a fire somewhere all the time that we're trying to put out. So if you don't hear back or whatever, is Kelley sort of indicated, one of the reasons, not just the oftentimes that you visit, but just, it gets to be overwhelming with the amount of requests that you're getting that you have to just put aside, because I just got to put out these real fires in front of me right now. And so don't get discouraged. Sometimes, and I don't know if I didn't want to look at my number of emails because I've been on Zoom calls like all afternoon. So I'm probably up to, 100 emails that I haven't answered in just a couple of hours. So, and that's, some junk, but mostly, if it's a real fire, I get a phone call, but there's just things that require my attention.
Yeah, I agree with that. Don't get discouraged. And with me, especially, I'm horrible at checking LinkedIn message. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not on there too much. I see messages months later on there, and then I'm like, should I answer? Or I don't know, but at that point, I'm always wondering what I should do in that case. But if you Twitter DM me, I see it much quicker. So sometimes it could just be the platform, but yeah. And if I don't answer you, the next person will probably answer you, but don't let that be discouraged. Usually it's not that someone's ignoring you. It's just maybe they're just not seeing that message or just having a chance to respond.
With that being said, as far as sending emails to you guys or reaching out, do direct message on social media platforms, if you guys don't respond, say if I send an email or a message on your social media platform and you don't respond in, I say, a week, and I feel like sometimes I question myself and I say, should I send a copy reply just to see if they'll get it? Or do you guys suggest just let it be and just let them come when they come?
If I know you and we talk, hit me back. Even if I don't know you, hit me back, is what Kelley was talking about. Because again, sometimes I miss emails from staff. So I damn sure might miss yours.
Right.
So don't take that personal. Just hit me back until you're like, yo, man, I'm over here. And then I'm good. Because once you get me, just like tonight, I'm totally impressed with Kelley and how much time she says she spends on it. Because I'm like, Lisa, I ain't going there. I just don't have that kind of time. But now that we've connected and we're here, your first is like, you know, the about me comment was like, internship chat might be a subject line to get my attention, to be like, oh, and then you can tell me who you are. You know, don't just give me something generic, but make it, just like we're talking about your resumes, tailor it to this, to jog our memory, say, hey, you know, you say intern chat, and you're like, hey, this is Ben. Remember me? You like my stuff, you know, and then hit me
that you can recall.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, definitely do it again. You know, now you don't want to do it every other day.
Right.
You know, if you just like a week or two pass, you can always come back. Sometimes it's seasonality. You know, right now, maybe Oscar slam with the NBA playoffs, but you try him a month later, he might be able to get back to you. So sometimes it's just that people just have a lot going on. It's not that they're ignoring you. In most instances, they're not ignoring you. It's just maybe it's not a good time for them to answer. Or sometimes you see it, you forget to answer. I've done that quite a bit. But if you keep coming back to me, I definitely will get back to you and oftentimes apologize that, oh, I saw this, I meant to get back to you.
Got you.
And I will say this to you. I hope you guys also take away that, you know, I can't remember when I've given this much time. So this is legit. This is not something that we're doing and just going through the motions. You know, this has been an all day thing. You know, I think all of us started early, working the day, and then we just picked up. And I'm willing to keep going as long as you guys want to. So this is a legit feedback that we're trying to provide to help you. And I know you appreciate it, and I really I'm getting just as much out of it as you guys. Trust me. But I think what Kelley said is real. You know, this don't hesitate. Hit me up. And you're right. It's the NBA playoffs. It's the damn derby. It's a few things. It's Brittany Griner.
Yeah, that's definitely that. I'm actually doing a news package on that for my capstone this semester for exams on the Brittany Griner situation.
Oh, okay. I think it's got all of us hopping a little bit.
Okay, well, there's no other questions. We can break. Thank you so much for joining. It's amazing this went 2 hours and 45 minutes, but doesn't feel like it. It's a great way to end our student sessions. We'll be back in the fall with different speakers, different sessions. Even if you're graduating, you can still jump on. We'd always love to have you. I'll be sending out some stuff in the summer about what we have planned. So thanks for joining, and stay in touch. Enjoy your summer, and we'll see many of you in the fall.
Yes, please stay in touch, and I would love to see some of your professional statements. Send them, email them.
Congrats, guys, and good luck with everything.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all for the insight and the tips. That would definitely help us go a long way.
No problem.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
You too.
Oscar, Kelley, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Lisa Wilson.
Okay.
Yes, always.
I'll talk to you soon and see you in Indy.
You'll see you. Ain't nothing like another taskmaster.
That's right. All right. See you soon. Appreciate you.
Talk to you.
Bye-bye.